All right, everyone. So last time I said we were talking about very basic, very simple single subject or time series designs. We talked about the comparison design. We talked about the reversal design and multiple baseline design. Those are very basic designs covered by Miller in his textbook. However, what we're talking about when we mean experimental control is you don't necessarily have to be prosaic. All you want to demonstrate is that the behavior changes when and only when the treatment was put into place. So sometimes we want to do this in a way that allows us to meet some of our clinical treatment goals without necessarily sacrificing quality. Sometimes it takes time, it takes effort, it takes uh, work to get clients where they need to go. One of my favorite designs ever is the changing criterion design. In a changing criterion design, what you see is that you're actually adjusting over time whatever your goal or criterion for reinforcement is. So you may have some of those same features. What I'm showing you here on screen is a graph taken from an article by McDougall in 2005. And in this particular study, we're looking at increasing physical activity for a client. In this particular intervention, they were taking a different medication. And what we're talking about here is over time, we're going to change the amount that the person has to run, how far they have to run in order to contact a particular reinforcer. So in this case, when we're talking about the 20M divided by D demonstrated here, that means that the client could run for 20 minutes per day, and then 40 minutes per day, and then 60 minutes per day. And essentially, this is a kind of self-goal setting behavior. So in a changing criterion design, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you'll have a baseline condition. That's, again, behavior under naturalistic conditions. But then you start setting a criterion to earn some sort of reward or some sort of reinforcer. And then you see the extent to which the client matches criterion. The reason it's called a changing criterion design and the way that you demonstrate experimental control is when behavior changes to match each subsequent level of the criterion. So in this case, the client could run for 20 minutes a day. And at that point, we see that they actually match running for 20 minutes. They could then run for 40 minutes, and we see there's a little variability there. But for the most part, they earned the reinforcer for running 40 minutes a day, and then 60, and so on and so forth. We want to see that the behavior changes when the criterion is changed, and it changes only when the criterion is changed for the client. If you want to demonstrate even a more additional level of experimental control, you might do a mini reversal, or you might come back to an earlier approximation or an earlier criterion. So you see here we go 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 80 minutes, and then the researchers pop back down to 60 minutes. And because we see the behavior drop back to the previous criterion level, we have greater confidence that whatever this particular intervention is, that is what is making the behavior change. So this is kind of an advanced experimental design, but it is one of my favorites. And it shows you not only that kind of experimental control, right? One of those basic goals that we have for science is control, or being able to produce the behavior when we need it. But this is also clinically relevant for our client, especially if a person wants to increase their amount of physical activity. Maybe this is a marathon runner. So we're seeing kind of those two goals, the improving people's quality of life, our treatment goals, as well as our experimental control goals. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, I'll look forward to seeing you next time.